Welcome to Give Me Hope with Johanna, a place where real stories meet real hope. I'm your host, Johanna Vendel, a published author, speaker, and the CEO and founder of the prestigious International Hope Book Awards. On this podcast, we share powerful stories of faith, resilience, and transformation, conversations with authors, survivors, and changemakers who turned life's hardest moments into purpose. If you're searching for encouragement, healing, or a reminder that your story still matters, then you're in the right place. Press that subscribe button now and don't miss a story. So now, let's welcome your host, Johanna Vendel.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Give Me Hope with Johanna. Today, I have the privilege of speaking to Warren G. Smith. He is a 6-time award-winning author for his book. He will tell us all about it. I will introduce him after. I just want to tell you that I have launched my clothing range for Give Me Hope with Johanna, and it is wearing the Give Me Hope with Johanna logo on the chest or on the back with a hoodie, tank tops, t-shirts, handbags. I will leave the link in the description for you to go have a look at that. And it is an amazing opportunity for you to wear the t-shirts and the clothing. And when someone look at you, you are spreading that hope when they look at you. Well, let's introduce our author this morning, Warren Smith. Good morning, Warren. How are you today?
Good morning, Johanna. How you doing? I'm doing well.
Thank you. I have to say, I love your background.
Oh man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You see that little spot right here?
Oh,
Uh
yes.
right at the top, just saying just very grateful for the opportunity to continue to spread that hope. So thank you.
Yes, yes. And before we came on today, we had a quick chat, and you were explaining to me exactly what my seal means. Do you want to tell people what you see in it? Because that is exactly the message I'm trying to spread by that logo without saying any words. You can tell me what you see.
Yeah. So just as we discussed earlier, what I saw was just that the dove, right? That's kind of similar to the Holy Spirit, the dandelion seeds, right? So if you've ever were a child like I was and playing in the grass, those dandelions, they
Oh,
once you hit them, they go everywhere, right? And so same thing with this. So right, this book or this Bible is just carrying that seed. The Holy Spirit is carrying that seed all over the world internationally, and
yes.
that's how we able to spread the gospel of peace and the gospel of hope and through the word of God, and sometimes even out of the word is birthed our writings. And so one of the things I can absolutely say is that this book is birthed out of that word. So for me, this, even though it may not seem that way for somebody else, but for me, that book in this seal, it's my book, and the Holy Spirit is carrying the seed of this book throughout everywhere in the world
Amen.
because of this. So I'm grateful, extremely grateful.
Wow. And then you have a few other seals there. Do you quickly want to maybe just tell us about that?
Oh, absolutely. So we have the international Christian International Book Award here. We have the International Impact Book Award here. We do have the National Honor Society Literary Book
Wow.
Award here, Christlit Book Award. This is all the way from the UK. This is actually a very special one to me because it's the first award that I actually won. And then I had the Literary Global Book Awards here, where I was a finalist here. So I've been 5 winners, one finalist, and so 6 time winning different awards. And God's just been grateful. I'm just grateful that God's given me this opportunity. And this year, it was just launched in October. So that's the
That's
interesting thing.
incredible.
Man, it's just God's been doing something great with this. So I'm grateful.
Sometimes it just works that way. Hey,
Yeah.
as soon as people just hear about it and it grabs you on the way it grabbed me as well, um, you definitely cannot think any other way, but it is an international winner. Warren, so I am going to ask you to tell the people first, who is Warren? What do you do for a life? And things like that, before you were an author.
I am a very hardworking guy. I operate at a very high level, and I've done so many different things. I guess the best way to describe myself would be I'm a polymath, right? And so, if you've ever heard that saying, a jack of all trades, but a master of none. The actual full, the actual full statement, if you do the research, the fullness of that is jack of all trades, master of none, but still is better than a master of one, right? And so
Yes, my
that's
parents used to say that all the
yes.
time. It comes really from years ago, hey.
Yeah. Yes, and so that's what a polymath is. It's similar to what a jack of all trades is. The ability to be very good or exceptional in different areas. And God has given me that gift and blessed me with that. And so that's what I do. I've done everything from a server at Red Lobster to school bus driver. I was also working for the state of Indiana Department of Workforce Development. Worked for Hershey's, right, as a sales manager, 115 stores in my region. And then I worked as in housekeeping and laundry and maintenance, and that's
Goodness.
kind of what got me to where I am now. And I've worked. I'm a director of maintenance now for assisted living facility, managing almost 200 rooms and over two buildings, 200 rooms, and man, I've just been able to just maximize with that. And then that's just the professional realm. It has nothing to do with church or ministry or family. So many hats. So polymath is probably the best way to explain it.
My goodness, I think I am also one of them then.
Yes. Especially launching a clothing
Because
line. Man, that is hard
especially what?
work, especially when you launch a clothing line, right? That's a
Oh,
lot of work, man. That's a lot of work. And so congratulations on that. I did get a chance to go look at the website, and even though I don't want it to come off as you asked me to because you didn't, but I did look at that, and there's a lot of great t-shirts. And definitely those black ones with the seal on the shoulder. I'm gonna be getting at least one or two of those to wear this summer because it's just absolutely amazing. So yeah.
yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'll appreciate it. And then when you do wear it, you need to take a picture and post it online so everyone can see, hey.
Absolutely, without question, I'll be making sure that I show everybody the hope that continues to spread out through that dandelion. So I'm again,
Yes.
I am
Wow.
so grateful. Yes.
Well, from where you come from and where you are now today, I can also say my very first thing that I did in life, I was a packer. I packed
Mm.
people's groceries
Really?
before I became a cashier, you know. Ah, and then I also wore so many hats
Mm,
till where I am today, CEO and founder of the prestigious International Hope Book Awards and host of Give Me Hope with Johanna.
yes.
I just love what I do. Well, Warren, enough of everything. You need to tell us your story because everyone needs to know that they need to buy your book and read your story. So
Absolutely.
let's start at the beginning before you wrote your book,
Hmm.
and then what brought you to writing your book and the ministry and everything that goes with it. But give me a gap here and there so I can speak because I love conversations.
Absolutely. Not a problem.
You can continue.
The story begins, I guess, as most great stories do, is through trauma, right? Through traumatic experiences, and just trying to find a way to make sense of it all because there's so many different instances in life that we just don't have an answer for. So I
Mm.
guess the best way to kind of lead into this particular book, I published my first book. It was entitled A Ministry Led Lifestyle, and I got no support. A lot of people really didn't care about it. And so what I did was immediately after publishing, I paid for my second book, not knowing what the second book would be. And there's a gap there because I published my first book in 2010, and I
Wow.
paid for it in 2012. I mean, 2010. So as soon as I got done, I paid for it the next year. And so life happened. Kind of what happens to a lot of people is just that life happened. And what we see in this particular book is um, how life happened, how I was able to find God in those situations to help
Mm.
me make sense of what I went through it for. And most
Mm.
often I found that the hardest lesson is accepting that um God's answer wasn't as warm and fuzzy as I thought it would be.
Mm.
And just learning to accept the hard answer, knowing that on the backside, I was able to find not just closure, but the ability to help other people who were experiencing the same situation. I believe it was Paul that said, I was the firstborn of many brethren, right? And that stuck with me through all these years, even
Mm.
before I started writing this particular book. Is that Paul was saying, God brought me out so that I could help other people come out, and so that's the story, right? I am, and I hate the idea of a mask, right? Because we
Mm.
pretend to be so okay in public, and the truth of the matter is, I am broken. And I experienced life just broken and trying to hide it. And everybody was looking to me to be strong and looking to me to be strong for them. And I could do that for them. And nobody ever saw how broken I really was inside.
Mm.
And so that's the reason
May
why
I
it's
ask,
titled.
may I ask what broke you, if you don't mind telling us a little bit in depth? You don't have to tell us
Yeah.
everything, but we
Oh,
need
yeah.
to know
Yeah.
how broken you were and how you came out of that.
Um, what broke you?
What broke
A
you?
lot
Yeah.
of stuff broke me. I was single, but raised by a single mother. But I did have my grandmother in my life, and my aunts and my uncle was there, so I had family. But I was very sensitive, not necessarily overly sensitive, but very sensitive to who I was, and my
Mm.
emotions. So the death of my mother broke me. The death of my father wasn't in my life full time. There's a chapter in the book that kind of explains it a little more in depth, to say that I respected what he said to me. I respected what he said. Hey, listen, I can't have you in this part of my life because of the way I am. He was an alcoholic. Very into his own thing. Not, I don't want it to make it seem like I'm mad about it. I wasn't. I respected that he said that to me, but he wasn't present. And so that broke me when he died. And um,
When did your mom die?
2012, 2000, May 30th. Her birthday was May 10th. My birthday is May 25th. She died May 30th,
Oh,
2012.
wow. Wow. It's
Yeah,
the same
yeah.
year as my mom. My mom died
Really,
on 24th of February
really.
2012.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
hard, man. That was
It is hard,
definitely,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. There are no words
Especially
for
she
things
did
like
so
that.
much for you, you know. She was
Absolutely.
always there for you and she did so much.
Yes.
And now she's not there. And then you are just a young man starting his life, you know, and
Mhm,
the person who was your mentor all those
mhm,
years, the
mhm.
person who loved you the most in this
Yeah.
world is
Unconditionally,
gone.
I think is the key that
Yes.
that made it difficult was just the unconditional love, right or wrong, I love you. Good or bad, I love you. I may not agree, but I'll always love you. And so
Always remember that.
the day she died, I remember standing outside her house and looking in the sky, and I said, my safety net is gone, right? So not necessarily that I relied on it, but people that walk the tightrope are able to walk
Mm.
with a little more confidence because they know that I won't hit the ground. And so that
Yes.
day I realized that my mom may not have kept me from hitting the ground, but she would make sure that I didn't hit it as hard as I normally would. And so I had to be more intentional in my steps, more intentional in my decisions, more intentional
Yes.
in leaping in certain places. And that also caused me to look at God and say, now listen, I got a family. So if I'm stepping out on you, and you can't let me fall because they gonna fall. And so
Mm.
it really built my faith in that way to say that, bad things do happen to good people. But
Oh,
it's
yes.
only because God is actually drawing us nearer to Him so that we don't have to concern ourselves with certain issues that He's really able to handle. So, yeah.
Yes. Wow. That is incredible. And when you have that mother that passed away and she taught you so many things, now she's gone. You fall so hard because you are so broken. And then all of a sudden you start to hear those little voices
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
she always told you, this
Mm-hmm.
is what you must do one day when you are big. This is what you must do
Mm-hmm.
one day. And
Hmm.
then you get up. Hey,
Yeah. You
wow.
get up. I got up, but I didn't. So I want to make sure that like people hear the harsh side of it.
Oh,
Sometimes I just
yes.
sat up, right? I couldn't find the strength to stand. I just sat up, and that was for me the victory in certain situations that were difficult, right? I couldn't stand. It
Mm,
was tough just to find the strength to sit up. It took everything I had. Not forget standing, man. Sometimes you just
mm,
sit. Sometimes I laid in the mud that people were slinging on me and slinging my name in, and I just couldn't get up from it. And I just rolled over and put my face towards the sky in the mud
mm,
because at least I could breathe, right? And so
yes.
there are times that I think that we as humans over cliche the idea of what it means to survive or to overcome situations, and we really want to help people the best we can. But the truth is sometimes the best you can do is just make it till tomorrow. And that's what I had during those rough times. Is just,
Yes.
man, let me just get to tomorrow. I heard a saying, I forgot who said it. It was a gentleman. He was giving a closing speech at a graduation. And what he said is what helped me. He said, um, make your bed. In the morning, make your bed. He says, no matter how bad the day is, no matter what you experience, good or bad, you may have had the worst possible day you ever have had or imagined in your life. But when you get home, you will have already made your bed. And so
Yes. Wow.
that's what helped me is just the idea of make your bed.
Yes. I always say, make your bed, because if you make your bed, because I always after I was a cashier, I actually started to go into the cosmetic industry,
Okay.
and it is a lot image
Mm-hmm.
um, orientated, and by the end of the day, how can you manage a counter and get your counter to look spick and span if you cannot even make your bed?
Right.
So I
Right.
try to also teach my kids, get up in the morning, make your bed, because
Make your
if you
bed.
make your bed, you already have the energy. And when you are walking around in your room, in your own space, you feel that, ah, I feel organized.
Mhm. Yes.
That is such a good thing, because when I was little, I was in a boarding school for almost 4 years. And the
Wow.
first thing that they teach you there is to make your bed.
Make your bed. Hmm.
If you didn't make your bed, you didn't pack your closet properly, and your clothes is just untidy, they will throw it out on the floor
Yeah.
and they will make you pack it back neatly again. And that is, I think I was 11 years old at that time when I was in boarding school. And that is the part I actually enjoyed the most in my life being a
Mm.
child, was
Wow.
being in boarding school,
Yeah.
because children need rules.
Mhm.
And if they have that rules and they get that, make your bed, just
Mhm.
that little rule. I
Yeah.
mean, look at what you also said earlier. It is incredible to think that small little step every morning can make a difference in your day.
Yeah. Yeah. And not just in
Wow,
your day, but even how your day ends, regardless,
definitely.
that one little moment to make your bed changes how your day will end. Because it's nothing like coming home to a made bed, right? And you just
I have
whether you
many pillows.
yes,
I have many pillows on my
yes,
bed, and my husband's always like, "Why are you making this bed so prim and proper?
yeah,
No one is even coming to visit or see the bed."
right,
I say, "Because I like it and
yeah,
because it makes me feel good.
yeah,
You don't have to help me if you don't want to make the bed.
yeah,
I'll make it. For me, it's not a problem."
right.
It is so strange that we're having a conversation about making
Yes,
a bed.
yes, yes. It's very important. Very important. Yes, it
Yes.
is.
Wow. And then, Warren, then you still fell and you were down on the ground in the
Mhm.
mud,
Yes.
but you got up. Tell
Yeah.
us.
Eventually, I think if you just sit down there long enough, you find the strength to get up. And that's kind of where every part of the book comes from is that process of getting up. Where did I find the strength to do it? There's a portion of the book that talks about some would call it a nightmare. I call it a vision
Mm,
of a graveyard, right? And I was walking through the graveyard in this dream and this vision, and excuse me, what happened is I saw somebody filling holes. I walked past some holes and they had already been filled, some graves. And so I get up to where the next grave is being filled, and I look in, and there are flashes of my life. They were the most painful parts of my life, but they were flashes of life, of my life. So, hey man, stop. That's my life you're burying. You can't do that. And I told him to stop, and he kept throwing dirt on it, kept throwing dirt on it. And so I said, man, stop. And I pushed him, I shoved him, and we kind of tussled and hit the ground. And then I looked at him and I said, man, what are you doing? This is my life. And I looked him in the face. When I looked at him, it was me.
that's you.
And it was life changing. That's when I began to seek God, and God said simply to me, you've buried this stuff, and I have to clean this out to make you usable.
Yes.
And
When
so it's
I
the
read that piece in your book,
yeah,
I was waiting to see who the person was that was
yeah,
throwing the sand over you.
yeah,
And when you said it was you, you will not
yeah,
believe it, but I got such a chill over myself,
yeah,
that that is what we do as
yes,
human beings.
yes, yeah,
There are a lot of people that cares about us,
mm-hmm,
but nobody cares about us enough to say, "Come, I will help you to
right,
throw that sand off."
right,
Or get out of that grave again and start your life and
absolutely.
build a future and tell the story. Because by the end of the day, that sand is not going to get off if you don't dig through it.
You
And
have to
that
dig
is
it out.
what God says. God says, dig through it,
Mm-hmm.
breathe, stand
Yeah.
up, and go spread my word, you
Yeah.
know, because you go down, you break down, and then what happens is you got up.
Yeah.
And look at you today. Are
Yes.
you not in ministry as well? I think you are in
Yes.
ministry,
Yes.
if I am thinking correctly. I read
Yes, I
so
am.
many books.
Yes, I
Yes,
am. Yes.
yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it launched me. It kind of became the launching point into all the areas of life that I had to fix. Some would argue that therapy would be necessary, and I tell people that therapy is good for some, but sometimes if you just sit with God, He'll show you exactly what it is that you need to get done. And so from there, I've been able to grow in ministry all the way from I've done everything in church or in a ministry except women's ministry, right? I've never led the women's ministry. Outside of that, I've done everything else from deacon to janitor, to associate
Wow.
minister, to trustee, to financial board. And I've gone to assistant pastor, elected pastor, senior pastor now, all the way up to
Wow.
overseer. I've worked very, very hard in ministry to be um, just to be pleasing to the Father, right? And that's
Yes.
essentially what I want to do. Just every moment I ask God, are you pleased with me in this moment? And that's where I am now. Is just trying to make God happy. So
And you see what that shows me, that you are not just speaking the word, but you are the example of what
Yes,
you speak. See, that
absolutely.
is what leaders are all about as well, is you
Yes.
have to be the example, because you can't always say, oh, those people, they have it so good. But
Mm-mm.
what have you done?
Yeah. And if we ever really stop to look at what people have had to go through to get where they are, we would really stop, prejudging them based on what we see that they have or what we see that they do. I mean, if you just read this book, right, you'll be like, I didn't know he went through all of that. No, you didn't. I just thought he was a nice guy. He is, but he still went through all of that. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, we have to put ourselves in other people's shoes, and then maybe we will be able to not be as harsh, or we would give a little more grace. And so,
Yes, yes. Well, when you started with the ministry, you had a few
mhm,
struggles.
yes.
Um, would you like to tell the people about that, and how you lost your job and how you actually got back to that same job?
Yeah, so I was they were downsizing. So I had got the job. If you read the book, it talks about the person that was there, and that kind of, it's a real thing to hear people's footsteps coming down the hall, and you just, your whole demeanor changes. And so then they were downsizing, and I was caught in it, and so I had to go without. And it was actually the death of my mother, right, that allowed me to go back to that
Yes,
job to ask for help. That particular job, the Calumet Township Trustee's Office, I didn't mention it in the book, but that particular job helps people that don't have the finances necessarily to help themselves. And so my mom didn't have insurance. My mom didn't have anything set ahead, and so I had to ask for that help, and I did. But because she transitioned when she did, and because she didn't have the finances that she did, it forced me to be into a position to have to ask for help. But that
mm,
position to ask for help opened the door for me to get that job back. Right, later on, come back to the same desk years later with the same desk, with the in the same office, doing the same job, but with a raise. Right, and so because I had learned the lesson, in my personal opinion, if you ask me, I had learned the lesson. Right, the lesson was to let go, to get that hatred out of my heart, to get the bitterness that was really residing in that grave, and just
mm.
just causing me to be an internal person that I didn't want to be. um
But
I'll be yeah.
what was nice was, when you came back
Mhm.
and you found out the reason behind everything
Yeah.
that was so unnecessary. If you didn't maybe think the wrong way in the beginning, if
Hmm.
you approached the person, it would have maybe been different. But
Would have been
she was a
completely different.
closed book.
Mm-hmm. It'd have been completely different. It probably would have spiraled me into a further sense of bitterness and anger and vitriol, some venom that would have come out of me, because I was more concerned with, again, that cliche of, you did me wrong, so you have to apologize to me. Where in
Yes.
truth, it was never really about her. It was really about me. I was telling somebody about a week ago. I told him, I said, listen, um, I used to have road rage, right? It's not the Prius cut me off, and so now I'm storming, trying to catch up, and eventually the Lord told me, it's like, the Prius is not the problem. You are the problem. And if we ever get to that place where we recognize that there's something inside of me that I need to deal with, then I'm less concerned about the people that did it, and more concerned with about how I respond to it. And so,
Yes, you are bringing me to a piece where, I was sitting in church one day, and a person that also hurt me badly in my life was sitting right next to me in church
wow,
18 years later, you
wow,
know. And that day in the ceremony, the pastor said he's going to send the ushers around, and they are going to give us each something. So they came around and they gave us a small little hand mirror. And then he starts and he said, I want every single person in this place today, in this church, to look in that mirror. I do not want your eyes to move to the sides. I want you to look straight to the person you are looking at.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything that happened in your life, anything that broke you down,
Mm-hmm.
anything that harmed you, don't blame the person next to you.
Right. Wow.
You you can get out of it, but you can get out of it the right way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you had a problem as well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there and I wasn't blaming him a lot, but I mean, I can
It
just
hurt.
say he's the father of my first two children, you
Yeah.
know. And I forgave him years ago, but I must have not forgiven him 100%. I think there
Mm-hmm.
was still that 1% that was like hurting. And why did he do it?
Mm-hmm.
And that day when the pastor said to us, look in the mirror, and this person was sitting next to me, it was incredible how I thought to myself, how can this ceremony going about this today? When
Right.
you decide to come to church, you
Mm-hmm.
always hear something that you need to hear on
Right.
that day. And I sat down with him afterwards and I said, I know I forgave you many years ago and we have not spoken for many years, but maybe we can be friends again. And yeah, it's unbelievable. It's since 2018,
Mm-hmm.
we actually speak to each other like normal people again. It is amazing to just
Yeah.
be at that position where you
Yeah.
were at as well.
Yes.
Warren, and then after that, you started to write this book.
Mhm.
Tell us about all
Um,
the things that went from there on.
well, I'll be honest. I downloaded the information. I'm probably the only person that'll ever be able to say this. From start to finish, I was able to write this book in totality from July to October because I experienced everything. And what I did, and probably shouldn't be giving out my secret, is I used I just kind of locked in one of my good brothers, my good friends. His name is Caleb Edge. He said to me, I said, man, how long did it take you to write your book? Because I've already paid for mine. He said, well, I asked the Lord, and the Lord said if I put my attention to it, he would put his acceleration on it. And man, that thing just sat in my spirit. So this is 2025, July 2025, is when I started. I sitting down and I put pen to paper essentially, um, and just started writing. And by October, so August, September, October, it just took those 2 months to just download all that information and then be able to edit. And I did all that myself to ensure all of the wording and things are right. Was all me. It was really just
Yeah.
recognizing that the experiences that are needed to help other people had been um, achieved in me. And so after those situations, man, each one of those moments are different periods in life,
Mm.
different moments in life. As a matter of fact, I think it may not be in the last chapter, but there was a moment where it talks about finding your community, right? That happened in August of 25, right? And that was essentially the last thing that God had for me to really be able to find that level of confidence. And the preacher that I saw, um, you know, 10, 15 years ago that let me know that it was okay to be how I was. I met him in person, and at the end of the exchange, just one meeting, he says, Warren, you're a friend. And man, it just I drove home. I drove 3 hours to go to the church to be with him and spend the day with him. I drove home 3 hours, and halfway through that 3 hour trip, I was just fighting back tears, just trying to keep my eyes on the road, but fighting tears because it was a moment that I was able to just understand that you don't have to fit in where you are.
Mm.
There's a community that will honor and appreciate you for who you are. And and you don't have to change who you've been or how you express yourself. There's a
Yes.
community there for that, and that's why I love this particular forum. I
Mm.
agreed or asked to be a part of this podcast, not for exposure. It's because this is the community. This is my community. Not many people
Yes.
can say that they're an author, and very, I mean, and this prestigious Hope International Book Awards is an opportunity for me to say, not only am I an author, somebody read what I wrote and said it was valuable, or said it was meaningful, said it was impactful, and that is the community that I have, and so that's what
Yes.
it was.
How did you feel when you read the review that I sent you? Did you
I
feel,
was the
wow, she actually read my entire
yes,
book?
I absolutely did, without question. I was mixed emotions, I guess would be the most accurate thing to say, because I was um as much as it seems that I'm a confident guy, I'm not, right? And so I
You
saw
have a
you said
very small heart.
yes,
I could see
man,
that in your story,
man,
that you
I
are such a good person,
man,
Warren. And
yes,
for me, it's an honor to meet you today in
man,
person,
I
and hopefully
appreciate
I'll
that.
be able to shake your hand before the end of this year.
I'm working on it. I'm working towards it. I do have a few things that are coming up financially, but if I can make it, I am going to make sure that one of the main ones I'm trying to get to is the prestigious Hope International Book Awards, and that's simply because um you know I'm not much of a pessimist, I guess I would say, but I am more of a realist, and sometimes my realistic perspective does cause me to be pessimistic. And so when you said, oh, I'm gonna read it, I was like, yeah, she's gonna read it, she's gonna say she's gonna read it, it's gonna give it off to one of the other readers, and they're gonna read it and write it, and she'll just put her name on it. And when I read your review, and man, I was amazed, I was shocked, and then I was overwhelmed with just the emotion of what it meant, and how it was able to translate from my experience to you, the reader. And
Mm.
I don't have I cried. I read it 15 times, literally,
Oh,
back to back to back. Just tears, man. I'm
yes.
not the kind of guy that just
I've
says something.
won.
Just man,
I have won quite a few awards myself, as you can see behind
yeah.
me here. Um, and I feel if I must go to the CEO and founders of all of those companies,
Mm.
I can tell you that they did not read my book.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you think, wow, who read it?
Hmm.
Or that's why I want to be different in the prestigious International Hope Book Award. I Anyone can ask me because I do have readers as well. And someone's like, oh, this was such an amazing book. But because I am the CEO and founder, I make the effort of writing the reviews myself. And I cannot write a review if I did not read the book.
Yeah.
And if I didn't read it to the end, because you have to read the end,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
Man, thank you so
I'm
much.
so proud of you, for
Thank you so
everything
much.
that you have
Thank
gone
you.
through.
Thank you.
I really felt your heart through all the time. And when you lost your mother,
Yeah.
I felt it,
Yeah.
when you had to go to her funeral
Yeah.
and people was at her funeral
Hmm.
that shook your hand. I was so happy.
Yeah.
I was so happy that God opened the doors again for you.
Thank you so
Can
much.
you just tell us the day when the Holy Spirit entered you, that that feeling that you got when you knew that God was in your life?
Whew. That goes back a very long way. In fact, unintentionally, the segue would actually be, it was my mom. I was 6 or 7 years old. It was Easter Sunday. And I had on this white suit, and she said, "Don't go running in this church in this suit, or God will get you." And man, you know how we are as kids, running through the church downstairs, just having fun. And man, I slipped and hit them stairs and rolled down the stairs and got up and looked at myself, and there was no dirt on a white suit. No dirt on this white suit. No dirt on this white suit. And I got up and I was just like, I had to tell mama, and I looked. I went to the mirror and looked, and I took the jacket off. It was no dirt. I rolled down the stairs. Not one speck of dirt on this
Wow.
jacket and this on this white suit. Not cream, not mother of pearl. It was a white Easter Sunday suit. And man, then I stood there and thought I could get away with it. I don't have to say anything. And I felt the conviction of the Holy Spirit that moment. And I went and told my mom, and she looked me up and down. She says, "If you wouldn't have told me, I wouldn't have known. But God will
Mm.
always get you. And the reason you told me is because God is real." And I sat down next to her, um, and she pinched me. She pinched me. She pinched me. She said, "And next time, do what I tell you to do." And in that moment, I felt the presence of God. You know, just in that moment, I'll never forget it. It was life changing. And he said, "I'm always watching and I'm always here." And so
Mm.
I've known from a very young age that God is real. God's in my life. He watches me. He watches over me. There's
Yes.
certain things that I just can't get away with. Nobody would have known.
Yes.
I took the suit
Yes.
off that night and it was not a speck of dirt on it. And so nobody would have known. But he let me know that he was always watching. And so it was actually my mom that gave me that introduced me to the presence of God, and here I am years later, still trusting
Yes.
and believing in that same presence and that
Yes.
Holy Spirit.
Amen. And it's about we can hide things,
Hmm.
but the truth will always come out,
Always,
and
always.
how many times have the truth been twisted before it comes out? So you know what? Just tell the
Ooh-wee.
truth all the time. It's going to be so much easier.
I have a motto: speak the truth fast, because as long as you go in and tell the truth, and even now in these 40s, I've told people around me I could tell the truth and get you better than telling any lie. And so it's always about the truth. Some people say it's about perspective, and that's true. But if you just tell the truth, you don't ever have anything to remember. I don't have to remember any lie I've ever said. Just tell the truth, and it's more than enough. And so you're absolutely
Yes.
100% right.
Yes. You know that I was a little girl. I was approximately 8 years old at the time, and I knew what promises mean, or I started to learn that if you promise, that it must be the absolute truth that you
Right.
speak.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I was one of five children, and that one day my dad got some money and he bought a few treats, and each of us get one little treat, and there was like two or three treats left over. Now, I mean, you think about it, seven people, three treats left over. Who gets the treats later?
Right.
Not the children.
Right.
It's my dad's treats.
Yeah.
No one touches that. So that evening he came back home, and the treats were missing. There was still one treat in the fridge that day, and like, where's the other treat?
Hmm.
And you know how sometimes nobody ate it, but
Hmm.
it's gone, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And my dad, in those years, we had a taste of the belt. You know,
Yeah.
he took his belt off and he will fold it in half and he'll go pop, and he like,
Yeah. Make the sound.
that
Yeah.
sound that you make.
Hmm.
And he's like, well, all five of you in this lounge, he says, and you decide who had the treat, you know, between five children. Now, I'm 8 years old, and no one ate the treat. We were in my dad's room two times, three hits on our butts, backsides.
Hmm.
And Every time I say, Daddy, I promise I did not have the treat, but he will still say, bend down, 1, 2, 3, go to the lounge, sort out who ate the treat. And then I'm sitting there, 8 years old, in the lounge. And I said to my brothers and sisters, or my brother and sisters,
Mm-hmm.
I said, if you are not going to say you had the treat, I'm going to say I ate it because I am just so tired of getting hidings now. This
Yeah.
is so, I'm tired. We have to go to school tomorrow. It was on a
Yeah.
Sunday. And I went back in that room, Warren, and I spoke my very first lie ever.
Mm.
And I said, Daddy, I ate the treat.
Yeah.
After I did not eat the treat.
Yeah.
My dad, he he thought, well, I'm a good little girl because I'm learning about promises and everything. My dad took me. He grabbed me on my arm. Oh, I think if it was any child today, they will say they were abused. I mean, I felt abused that day.
Mm-hmm.
He hit me so hard that I fainted. My mom had to stop him. That
Mm-hmm.
next day, I could not even go to school.
Yeah.
A few years or a few months later, we talked, and I still said, no, I didn't have the treat, Daddy. I just said I had the treat. And my dad, he didn't want to believe me. That I grew up trying so hard to always still stay honest because I know
Mm-hmm.
how this one lie
Mm-hmm.
have influenced my life so much.
Yeah.
18 years old, I was basically almost out of school. My brother, he came back one weekend from the army on his motorbike, and my dad was working in the car there, and I was his little helper, trying to still be the good little girl and trying to win my dad's love because I've always just wanted to be like, have my dad to be proud of me, handing him a wrench or handing him a spanner or whatever. And my brother came, and my dad said something, and I said, I don't know where it is. I promise I didn't have it. And my dad's like, please, there you go with your promises again. And my brother, I think he was like 20 some odd at that time, he said, don't tell me you're still going on about that missing treat. My dad's like, well, she shouldn't come and make promises if she's a liar. My dad treated me like a liar my whole life. And my brother said, you know what? I ate the damn treat.
Hmm.
Do you think that after you hit her like that I was going to say that I ate it? Warren, you can see it still hurts me because I know how long my dad has treated me like that. And this is who also shaped. That's why I said at the time when I was in boarding school, when I was 11, that's why I said that was the best time of my life because I had to learn to stand on my own two little feet, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But these are little things that shapes us,
Mm-hmm.
that makes us stronger.
Yeah.
And thinking back on that today, I only had my dad in my life 1 year. After that, my dad passed away when I was 19. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It still hurts me today
Mm-hmm.
if I think about it like that. We could have
Mm-hmm.
had an amazing life, if
Yeah.
my dad just trusted me
Mm-hmm.
and if he just saw the goodness in me. But this is just the little girl in me crying now. I'm so sorry.
It's
But
the
in
you
any
and you.
case,
It's the you and you. I mean, and I don't want you to lose the moment. Essentially, to say, the little girl in you is crying. No, the me in me is crying, right? Because this is the adult me that looks back at what really was going on. So I'll share something that's not in the book. My mom was a hoarder, and so I would. My little sister was with me, and I would get in trouble. My little sister wouldn't do her chores, and so when I moved out, I told my mom, like, "Hey, you'll understand one day when you see it for yourself." And so my mom and I both were stubborn. So if we were into it for about 3 years, 2 years, 2 or 3 years. My mom lived next door to me. And if she needed something, a light bulb change, hey, I need a light bulb change, I would go over, I would change the light bulb, and there would be no conversation because we were not kind of, we were stubborn. And so we were mad at each other. And so I changed the light bulb and I leave. It's changed, and I would leave and lock up the door. No, I love yous, no care, no concern, things like that. And that was 2 years, 3 years. And one day my mom came to me in my house and said, "Hey, listen, I want to apologize to you." And it blew me because my mom doesn't apologize. And it's one of the things that I used to not do. I used to not apologize. Um, and she said, "I want to apologize to you because I was so mad that you were right, that I couldn't really accept that you were right. But now I need you to know that, I get it. I understand." And so from that day forward, every Thursday we would sit down and play dominoes together. It's something that she liked to do. And
Mm.
my mom had a back problem, and she couldn't sit up. She had to lay down because of the intensity of back pain. She was in pain 24 hours. But every Thursday, like clockwork, she'd send 2 or 3 hours, and we would just sit and play dominoes and talk about life. And within probably like a couple years later, she passed as well. And there were times, especially after she passed, where I asked the question, like, how could I have wasted so much time being mad over something, not even realizing that, you know, what
How
life would
you
be
still
like without her.
affecting the other person, maybe also.
Absolutely. And so I found value in the fact that during those years, just like you said, I had to learn to grow up and be okay with even those that are close to me not
Mm.
fully understanding me for who I was.
Mm.
And even though it hurt then, it hurt after she passed. I have found solace in the fact that God loved me so much that He fixed it before He took her. And so that's what I would offer to you, to say that,
Yes.
God loved you. He loved Joanna so much that He would not let your dad, let the idea in your mind be that he left not knowing the truth. Regardless to how
Yes.
much you tried to
Yes.
make it, it
Yes.
was only the power of God that would make him accept it. Because you had been
Yes.
saying it for years, it sounds. And so no matter what you said, he wouldn't have believed it, but the power of God that loves you so much that he wouldn't let
Mm.
you live the rest of your life without hearing the truth, that your
Yes.
honesty was still important. And so I would say, man,
Yes.
don't run away from their moments. Stand firm in them, embrace them, knowing
Yeah.
that the outcome truly was that God had a plan. So, and it comes from
Yes.
this idea, if I can put a scripture with it to make it make sense. Job chapter 1 starts by talking about how great Job was. But we got all of these chapters in the middle of everything he was going through. We talk
Mm.
about how he lost his family and his money and all the things that brought him value. Then he lost his health. And then his friends, on top of that, his friends and his wife says, just curse God and die. His family, that's who left, is against
Mm.
him. His friends are saying, you did something wrong, you're lying about it, and he endured all of that. And the end of Job, the last chapter of Job says, the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friend, and the latter part of Job's life, he received twice as much as he had before. And it begs the question, right?
Mm.
If Job chapter 1 says that Job was perfect in his whole entire generation, he did everything right. In fact, Satan says, I couldn't try Job because you got a hedge of protection around him. What is it? Why would God remove the hedge of protection from Job
Mm.
if everything he was doing was right? And the answer to
Yes.
that is in the last chapter of Job, where he says, and he gave Job double, right? God intended to give Job double the whole time.
Yes.
And that is to say, God's intention was for you to be able to endure the hardship so that you could have the moments of success and value and appreciation and stand on your own 2 feet and say, hey, I am valuable to God and he loved me this much to show me. And
Yes.
so,
And that is exactly what I have written in my last book as well, this 1 year. I just published it like 3 weeks ago, still
oh,
standing.
wow.
And
Yes, I saw
I
that.
am
Congratulations.
actually, thank you so much. I'm actually taking everything that happened in my life as
Mm,
I've actually lost my entire family, my mom, my dad, my three sisters, and my brother. They all
wow.
gone already, and 5 years of grief and everything that I have been through till today, which is almost now, it's 26, it's 6 years later since
Right.
since I'm all by myself. I
Okay.
had to reflect back a lot on all of those things that happened in my life. And you know what I have written in this book? I have turned absolutely all my pain into good
My
because
God.
God has prepared me since I was this 8 year little girl
Yeah.
to receive, to
Mm,
lose, to receive, to lose.
yeah.
For me to lose my entire family before I am 46 years of age,
Yeah.
and then to stand up and lead authors
Yeah.
today and be a leader and a mentor where I can say, you know what? If you just take God's hand,
Mm,
He is going to lead you into
yes.
your purpose.
Yeah.
And yes, many tears later, I cannot tell you how much you're going to get out of this book. If you
Mm,
ever have to read my book, Warren,
yeah.
um, you will see how much I have grown and that God was always there
Yeah.
and that He used me. He taught me how to be strong already. And
Yeah.
yes, I did have a moment of weakness earlier when I cried, but that's only because you go back in your mind and you feel like you tried your all, but you were broken at that time. And how
But
much I have grown.
is it really a moment of weakness, or is it a sign of your strength? Right. I and I hope that it doesn't, come up the wrong way. Not a
No,
therapist by far. But I
it's
just
true.
believe that we say things um because that's how people interpret them without understanding that God, he says, my ways are not your ways. My
Hmm.
thoughts are not your thoughts. And what if, right? The tears that you shed here on this in this moment were signs of your strength to say, I could go back and still experience it and not get lost in it. But I was strong enough to endure it, and I've been strong enough. You still standing.
And
That's not a
I am
weakness. You
still
are still
standing,
standing. That's it.
you see, and that is why the book is called
Yeah.
Still Standing.
Yes, you're still
And
standing. Yeah.
yes, it is. I maybe just said it now that way,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but it is definitely a sign of my strength
Your
because I
strength.
want
Yeah.
people to know
Yeah.
that doesn't matter how broken you are,
Does not matter.
you can stand.
Yes. Yes, you'll
Yeah.
survive it. Yeah. The
Yes.
26th chapter of Acts is really good. It says that they fall in the ship, they're in a storm. The ship falls into a place where two seas meet. And if you're thinking spiritually, there's a place where God's will connects with our will. It's one of the most violent places that can be in life. And in the sea, geographically speaking, the place where two
Mm.
seas come together is very violent. It says that they see the shore, they run the ship aground. And here's what's interesting. It says the front part of the ship was stuck fast in the ground, but the
Mm.
back part of the ship was broken into pieces. And that's what I learned, that it's okay to be broken as
Mm.
long as I'm stuck fast in my faith. Right? And the scripture
Yes.
says some on board, some on broken pieces, but they all made it safely to land. You will have broken moments, but as long as you are stuck fast in your faith, you can hold on to
You
that
can
broken piece and you
And you can
will
rise from
survive.
it.
Yes, and when they got
Yes.
to sea, once you get to land, you can stand again. Just can't stand
Yes.
on the water. So just make it to land, and you'll stand again. Make it to the place that your faith is sure in, and you will be able to stand again. So,
Definitely. Amen.
mhm.
Well, I'm going to leave it right there for today.
Amen.
Thank you
Amen.
so much
Thank you for having
for
me. I am
being on
so
my
grateful for this.
podcast.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
so glad that I met you today and that I
Amen.
read your story. It really touched me. Thank you for writing it.
Thank you for reading it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You are very welcome. Well, this was Warren Smith, an incredible author, incredible story. His link will be down below in the description. If you would like to read his story, go down and click on it and get that book and read it. I am Johanna Bendal, and this is Give Me Hope with Johanna. I will see you next time. Have a great day. Goodbye.